Good morning and welcome to the Point. I hope you and your family are enjoying this long Thanksgiving holiday weekend. As we prepare to go back to work on Monday, the legislature will come back to work this week as well. They've been on an extended break, but now they come back for the end of the year session, a session where there are a number of big items they could consider, including an energy policy, but they'll only be in session for a few days, 6 to 9, depending on how many of those days they actually use. There is, however, one big issue they did deal with this year, and that is roads. But the fallout from that continues, with Democrats saying some Republicans who voted in favor of that plan should be punished in next year's election. One such representative is Muskegon County's Holly Hughes. We talked with her about just that. Representative, let's talk about roads. I am hopeful in the very near future I'm going to sit down at this table and do a show without talking about roads, but we still have to for now because this remains a pretty divisive issue. Republicans finally, after a long time, were able to come together, put the votes on the board, pass a roads deal that many believe, at least from the Republican standpoint, will meet the needs of $1.2 billion a year over a 10-year period to fix the roads. However, Democrats say that's just not right. They say the money won't come in time. It won't fix the roads. It will raise taxes on people that they say they don't want taxes raised on. And they singled you out in some of their ads as saying Holly Hughes was the deciding vote. All of that being what it is. It took 54 votes, and in some cases were 55 and 57, whatever. Fact of the matter is, what's your take on the roads? Is this bill adequate?
Yes, this is something that I feel passionately about, and I think my voters want, and the hardworking taxpayers want this done. They know that the roads are bad. They just want it fixed. And they're tired of the arguing. We're tired of the arguing. And so that's what we did, was get it done. Some wanted to extend the conversation and say we didn't get it done. But we budgeted this year $400 million at the beginning of the year to make sure that even if the ballot proposal had passed, this is how much we would have spent this year, is the $400 million on roads. That's why you're seeing all those orange barrels in Muskegon County this summer, and that will continue. Also, was happy to support the homestead tax credit, property tax relief for our seniors. I proposed that bill back in January, not knowing if I'd have a chance for it or not. So it was important to me to see that we had some tax relief go along with our road package if we could, because we're doing so much better on the economy. I saw that with our Veterans Job Fair, actually. We did our fourth one that I started with Dave Ealing. We had 65 businesses that filled up the LST 393 ship downtown, and we're going to do our fifth one next year. And it's a big difference from when we started 4.5, 5 years ago, where people were looking for work, and now work is looking for people, actually. And you're seeing wages go up from jobs from engineering, welding that the governor talks about, all the way down and in between for grocery store clerks, etc. So we are seeing a better economy. And we wanted to ramp this up because we wanted to make sure that we had competitive bidding, and that I think passed, competitive bidding, and also we had road warranties. I think the road warranties passed by 72, so that was more bipartisan support. And so I was pleased to be able to provide the homestead tax credit increase up to somewhere around $300 more maximum, depending on what your situation is. And so there are some seniors and so forth, depending on where you are in your home value and so forth, that could come out slightly ahead, even with the 7.3 cents and with the registration fee. They could come out ahead better than what they are right now.
Well, Democrats have made it clear that they're going to use this in this coming election cycle. It's no surprise that they chose your district, which is one of the most narrowly drawn in the state. Certainly in our viewing area, it's switched from Republican to Democrat and back and forth more than any other single district. So that part of it plays out. But let me ask you about the one other big complaint that I hear from Democrats, and that is that even if all of the other part would work, if there was enough money and if it would fix the roads, where the money comes from, not just on the tax side, but on the existing revenue side. They say that between that tax credit for homestead property tax relief and the $600 million. That's $800 million in extra cash that's going to come out of the general fund, and they say there have to be cuts to make that happen. The governor says he doesn't think so. What do you think?
Well, I think the governor's right. They actually, the other side of the aisle, and I don't want to talk about election stuff a year ahead of time. I'm concerned about getting the job done. They wanted actually double the tax of what we put out there, and we're not going to stand for that. So I think we did the right thing. I think we're going to get the road package that we needed. We're going to ramp up slowly so that we have some competitive bids and we don't have anybody gouging us for our road money. And I think it was the right thing to do. Get it done.
All right, let's talk about some other things you've been working on. This is something we've talked about for a good long while, and it developed at least partially out of a tragedy that happened in your district. But you're looking at ways to make buses, school buses, more visible for people to have a better idea of what's going to happen with that bus so people are aware. Now, you'd think those big yellow buses in and of themselves would be visible enough, but we see every year some type of incident involving a bus. So you are working on something this time around that deals with lighting on buses.
Right. Now we have proof, actually. It was born out of a tragedy for Bruce and Tony Pravacki. Two teenagers from Ravenna, Michigan, who slammed in the back of the bus. Were the only children and grandchildren of some very good friends of mine. And when I waited an hour and a half in line to visit with the family, the first thing Bruce Pravacki said to me, the grandfather, who one of the children was named for, I want a bus bill. So nobody else has to go through this tragedy. And all I could say was okay, and then walked out with my friend and said, the bus is big and yellow, what's the problem? Yeah. Well, then we started to study this with the state police and the Michigan Pupil Transport and a number of stakeholders, and we found out there was some things that we could do. And it's this bus lighting we felt was the best choice to go of the options. And it says stop, do not pass. It's at eye level, so it's not up at the top, wondering if you should stop or not stop, can I go or not go? And so we did a pass-by study this time. In the month of October, we had 10 communities participate, including Ravenna. For the first 2 weeks of October, they charted the pass-bys without the light. In the last 2 weeks, they charted the pass-bys with the light on. And we got real results. I had a meeting on it in Detroit this morning, and actually 40% more likely not to pass by illegally if the light is in place. And on a two-way street, from the front, even though the light's on the back, they're 20% more likely to stop because they see somebody else stopping back here as well. We're going to have a meeting at the end of next week that will bring all the maintenance and bus supervisors from across the state to reveal our results. And today, Mac Dashney from the Michigan Pupil Transport said that it's 95% conclusive. We do need this light. When I first started this, we had 3 states that had it as law. Now we have 5 states. So Michigan would be the sixth state to do that.
One of the things people always ask whenever you want to do this, how much is it going to cost and who's going to pay?
Right. Right now it's for any new buses, but you can retrofit. Obviously we did that with 40 buses in the 10 communities. Actually, even if my bill doesn't pass, there are parents groups that could raise the money relatively inexpensively, and I've heard anywhere from $160 to $500 a bus. But if enough states come along, it will be cheaper, and I think it'll be cheaper once the law passes. That will be a standard item on the bus. In fact, Mac Dashney said it's worth the money, and so did Tim Funk from Ravenna, head of bus maintenance, said that he felt it was worth the investment.
One of the other things
that
goes along, yeah, absolutely. One that goes along with the education component, some of the things that you're working on, is something that I think every parent is, if they're not aware, they're becoming aware that in their school district, there may not be enough teachers on those days when teachers sound like I sound today with a cold like this, and may not want to go and get 30 kids in their classroom exposed to whatever germs. But the substitute teacher shortage is critical. In fact, the bill you're dealing with called critical shortage. Tell me a little bit about the problem and what you think a fix could be.
Well, actually, my bill passed 108 to 2 in the House back in March. I introduced it in January. It goes to the Senate next Tuesday. I hope that it will vote out unanimously. And basically what it does is it allows the teacher who retired from the district that they used to work at to actually go back and teach again. Right now they can teach at any other district. Stems back to a 2010 bill where you had double dipping. superintendent who got a retirement, went back to the district he retired from, got a second retirement. That's called double dipping. It's kind of outrageous. The teachers got caught up in that. So our main point is to make sure that the kids have teachers in the classroom that can actually help them with the subjects that they need. And there's certain areas, there's a list where we're short in certain subjects and we need to make up the difference. Some colleges actually are trying to put in new programs to help generate new teachers for that, but Grand Valley has one that's going to take 3 years. So we don't have that much time. We need to take advantage of the retiree just down the street who already knows the kids in the district and make a difference.
Senate will look at that. If that goes into place, could that impact this school year, or would it be next school year?
It could be this year. We could have the governor sign it into law if it passes the Senate. It does have to come back to the House because a couple senators made some changes to it, but I expect it to be signed into law, I hope, by the end of this year.
All right. One other school issue, and this is one that I think a lot of us have heard a lot about, and it's been 10 years since the Kalamazoo Promise started,
Yes.
and it was something that I know when we first heard it in the newsroom, we were trying to figure out what the impact would be, how could you sustain it, what would this look like, and it has turned out to be one of those magnet kind of programs that people know about from Kalamazoo, that if you go to school there, you're going to go to college, and that's a huge benefit when you look at the cost of higher education. You're working with something in Muskegon that is maybe not as ambitious just because of the dollars and cents, but you've put into place a lot of money to make some promises for kids there too.
Oh, it's a perfect private-public partnership, and we have to raise money for the first 2 years, and we're off to a great start in Muskegon. I worked on that legislation, and I'm also was appointed by Speaker Jay Spolger to that committee, and we got together with a lot of our businessmen this summer. We had 4 lead companies, raised $100,000 each. We're trying to raise up to $700,000. ADAC, Heinz, Nichols Paper, and I'm going to forget the fourth one. That's not good. Alcoa. So those were the 4 lead grants. And we're making great progress on it in a very quick time since July. And if we can raise more than the $900,000 that we're looking for, if we could raise a couple million, then we can put all the districts in right now. We're starting out with 3 schools. We're giving our first grant in January, which is really, really exciting. And then we'll have all the schools in Muskegon County participating in it as well, whether you're a public or even a private school. So we're excited about that.
And how will that work?
College.
Is this for every student or students at a certain performance level?
You have to have a 3.5, and it will be for Muskegon Community College and also for Baker College to start. So it's 2 years plus books. We hope eventually it'll be a 4-year college, and we'll get to expand it, and we can adjust the GPA and so forth as we go along. But in the meantime, you have to have the 3.5 GPA meet certain criteria for ability to pay, and so it helps students who can't afford to go to college. So we expect it to help out a lot with a lot of our students. We're really, really excited about it.
Well, and as the governor has talked about in the past, he's talked about dual enrollment, being able to take college courses, get college credit while you're in high school, and if you get through your first year, for example, you've reduced the cost of an education by 25%. In this case, maybe 50% under the Muskegon Promise, which makes higher education more attainable, because we see, and we have seen, people come out of college with enormous debt, bigger than a house payment.
And this could help with dual enrollment as well, so it's a win-win all the way around. So as we grow and get bigger, potentially we can have 4-year and impact even more kids. So I'm excited about that.
One of the
at least by year 3, we will have all the districts in this mix, because I know we're going to raise the 900,000. We're only a couple $100,000 short for that, and I think we could raise the 2.2 million, quite frankly, too, because I think there's enough interest in our hometown to try to make a difference for our kids.
There is much more to talk about as the legislature prepares to come back to work for just a few days to finish up 2015. More with Representative Holly Hughes next. To the Point. Welcome back to the Point. Our conversation this morning is with Republican Representative Holly Hughes from Muskegon County. She talked to us about a number of issues that she'd like to see addressed, but one of the most important issues for any representatives is the economy of their respective district. We talked about just how things are going on the Lakeshore. Living along the lake shore in the Muskegon area, there are a lot of advantages, and one of them that people might not think about as often because it's not so much recreational as it is used for commerce, but you have a deep water port there, and with that
Yes.
comes opportunity, but some expenses that go along with that too. And that's changing a little bit because of some of the changing of the landscape on the lake shore. Talk to me about that port.
Right. I'm on Commerce. I've been assigned to a subcommittee for the ports, myself, Shepard, and Representative Byrd. It all was kind of born, we've been working on it for a while, but we're going to lose consumers' power on the lakeshore. And they just had their last shipment about a week ago or so of coal.
Yeah, this is a coal-powered utility plant, energy-producing plant out there, one of 9 within the state that's going to be shuttered.
And they have the deepest port there as well, which we want to utilize. We're the only deep water port on the west side of the state. And our charge is to find businesses to help with our port, Detroit's port, and also in Monroe County with Shepherd's port as well. So we have 3 ports that are underutilized right now. Chicago, they have a turnover of 6 to 7 days, and we feel from Muskegon port, we can ship it a lot faster over to Milwaukee, and some companies could find some savings from that. So by having consumers close, we want to make sure that we can still dredge the port, and the Corps of Engineers requires 1 million tons, and we're going to lose 660,000 tons. But Verplank is working really hard, and the county, to increase their business, and we're reaching that point so that I don't think we'll lose the dredging part of that, and we won't need an act of Congress from Huizenga. He's also working that angle as well to keep our port open. So we're really excited about that. I visited with a business who's right in Muskegon and would love to use that port, and we're trying to work out the details with them as well as others.
When you look at the capabilities of that area, when you look at that kind of ability to receive and ship goods and services, is there infrastructure that needs to be developed around that other than the port, or is it all pretty well already there?
Well, there'll be some infrastructure. By having consumers leave, we'll have that area that we could actually develop into more of shipping and not just for consumers. But we're also looking at agriculture, and that might require some cold storage. So I've put in a bill because our port is different than Detroit and Monroe's. Detroit's is an authority and Monroe's is a district. And ours, being unique as we are in Muskegon, all of our dockage is privately owned. So we were looking at a private-public partnership, and there's some things that the city is working on as well that will help with this project. So there are a lot of moving parts on it right now, but we're really excited. We have a ton of people that are involved, a lot of stakeholders. We had a meeting on it just a couple of weeks ago, and we'll continue to have meetings on that. So I'm excited about that possibility as well.
One of the things that I'm always interested in is the economic development of the region there, because I know that over the course of time, because of the unique ability that some of the things that you can do you feel like the economic health of not just your particular district, but the entire coastline, say along from Grand Haven and going northwards Muskegon and through there, has improved? As an outside observer, it seems to me that it has, but you live there, you see it every day.
Tremendously. I have businesses from the job fair and our own business too at MasterTag, watching the same story unfold. Holly, I have 10 or 20 jobs. I just need somebody to show up and pass the drug test. And so actually we need people to move back in to fill the positions that we have open. So we really need to market our town and get more people into Muskegon.
One other thing I want to talk about before we get away, and our time will run out relatively shortly. One of the things, in addition to finding jobs and trying to get veterans matched up with jobs, which you've been working on, I know you're also interested in trying to give veterans some of the support they need, both either physically or emotionally, and one of the ways that you've been working on that is with a service dog bill. Talk to me about how that would work.
Well, you know, we have 22 suicides a day from our veterans. And so being frustrated and looking at how can we improve that, also noticed a story from Eric Calley, who is our Lieutenant Governor Brian Calley's brother, who has a service dog. He served in Iraq, and it has really saved his life. And that's generally what you see with service dogs. So in the middle of the night, about 3 a.m., being frustrated, I thought of something that was similar to what we did in legislation a couple of years ago. And that was with Secretary of State and being able to voluntarily pay $10 or whatever the fee is to join, have a sticker for the parks at the same time you sign up for your driver's license. Why can't we do that with dog licenses? Voluntarily, $10 to help a veteran get a service dog. We think that there's about 400 or so that in need of service dogs. Let's make a difference, let's make a dent in that suicide rate and help our vets out. So that fund will grow to a certain point. We've put a cap on it. It will help pay for service dogs. And then after that point, the money will go to the Michigan Veterans Trust Fund, which the legislature and the governor cannot touch for emergency things for our veterans. So I think that's going to be very, very helpful. I'm excited about that bill as well. I think it'll make a difference for our veterans.
And where is that process? Where is that bill?
That bill is going to Representative Chatfield's committee, local government, and I hope we'll have a hearing either next week or the week after that on that bill.
But that's something that's not likely to get done until next year, I'm
right.
assuming, because you only got a couple of weeks left.
We only have a couple weeks left, but I'm excited about working with Eric Callie, who got his dog from Guardian Angels, and they actually helped buy a dog for a Muskegon veteran, Bill Wiebinga, and he got his dog Fancy a couple weeks ago. And I've heard from our vet center director that he's talked to his wife, and Bill's doing a whole lot better already. So.
Well, this is, I want to come back to this. In fact, we'll devote some more time to this because I find this an interesting prospect. But we've got a couple of minutes left, and I want to wrap this up. You said you don't want to talk about elections a year away, and I appreciate that. But the fact remains that not only is it a presidential election year, but you and 109 of your colleagues, well, not all of them, some will be term limited, will be running for re-election. Where do we go in this next year where the state of Michigan, because of the position of its primary, may actually have some role to play in the selection of the next presidential candidates, and because of the election upcoming for House members, does this next year become more difficult to get legislation passed as the elections encroach on what goes on in Lansing?
Well, it's always a challenge to try to figure out how much you can get done before an election's upon you. But we're working on the budget. Already have started working on next year's budget to make sure that we get that done. And we'll see how the presidential works out. I don't think, March will be part of a Super Tuesday situation. I remember one year we did it in January. I think we had more of an impact on the election then. But we'll see how that all works out. Who knows? That's something I can't control. And we'll just keep working hard and try to get everything done that we need to get done.
And finally, when you take a look at next year, are there any, obviously roads was a big issue. Yeah. We know that there's Detroit Public Schools. We know that there are energy bills. We know that there are a lot of these.
And I'm on that committee.
is there any, but you have passed yours out of committee, the energy bill out of committee, right?
Yes, but I think there's going to be some changes on the floor. So the House floor, we'll see how that all works out.
Is that the next big thing that the legislature
has
to deal with?
That is the next big thing that I hope we'll have done before the end of the year. We'll see how that works out. But the main thing is people want to make sure that they're able to turn their lights on at a reasonable price, and we're going to make sure that that happens.
We'll have more to the point when we come back in just a moment. So the Michigan State Legislature will come back into session, both the House and the Senate this week. There are any number of things that they could deal with, including that energy policy that we discussed. But there are other issues that are looming, including those tax abatement bills for the Pyramid Project in Gaines Township. That's where a group called Switch would like to create a big cloud storage data system. But in order to do it, they need some tax concessions from the state, and they say they'd like to have that done by the end of the year. So we'll see if the legislature works on that. It is thought they could take it up as early as this week. And there are any number of other things that we'll be tracking in Lansing, and we'll talk about it next Sunday morning right here at 10 o'clock on To The Point.